welcome to a very exciting episode of another Impact Talks. Today we have Mr. Bijay Chowdhury, who is the head of CSR and Philanthropy Asia Pacific for Synopsys. Welcome to the talk, Mr. Bijay. I would just want you to first introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Mansi. Firstly, I thank Team CSR Box for having me in this session of Impact Talks. Just to introduce myself to the audience, now they know my name, where I work, but I'll give a little bit of context of about my experience in this domain. I'm working as a CSR professional for the last 9 years now, and in the past I've worked with organizations like Jubilant, Hewlett Packard, KPMG, and Deloitte. And here at Synopsys, I'm managing the social responsibility initiatives for the Asia Pac region. And Obviously, there are a lot of stuff on ESG as well. We look into material topics of ESG, in which we can contribute. So that's one thing. So as long as the projects are concerned, we'll talk about it when we have the questions on that front.
Sure,
But
right.
yes, thank you so much.
Right. Thank you so much for the introduction. And like I said, for the benefit of our audience, I would request you to tell the CSR focus areas of Synopsys in India and what is the general approach of Synopsys towards social responsibility and developing social programs.
Okay. Look, I mean, this is a fact of pride, and every Synopside takes pride in saying that before the CSR rules were enforced in India, Synopsys had been in the space of philanthropy quite a long time. In the past, we were already inclined into projects which focused on STEM for rural kids or semi-urban kids. But after the CSR rules were enforced, we structured our framework a bit, and now we are obviously, as a responsible organization, we are influencing positive social and environmental change through our social development programs, of course. And if we talk about our focus areas, it's majorly education, community, and environment. And as long as the approach is concerned, obviously, this is something that you would have heard from a lot of corporates that the approach they take while designing CSR projects is mostly long term because we don't like to do anything that's very short term and it should be measurable and has a sustainable angle to it as well. So that is how we design projects. It's not just that we invest in something and then we move out. We support something for a number of years, and then once the project is sustained, then only we exit. Of course, there are other instances where these are need based, like humanitarian response to a disaster relief. Or a
Right.
disaster that happened in Assam last year.
Mhm.
So those are the things which we incorporate in our CSR frameworks. So education, community, and environment are our focus areas.
Okay, that's great to know. But as your tenure as the head of CSR, which initiative or project would you count as the one that turned out the maximum impact or is closest to your heart?
So there are two things to it. Closest to my heart is something very personal and turned out maximum impact, as you mentioned, is something I would like to talk about on the quantitative front. So I'll talk about first what's close to my heart. So there is a project which we do with Lotus Petal Charitable Foundation that's in Punela,
Mhm.
Haryana. It's a charitable school, but if you see the way that school has grown and it's on the path of becoming one of India's biggest charitable schools. I mean, I'll talk about the project, but I'll just give a brief on how things work there. So it's a charitable institution, like any other charitable school. It's not a proper government school. We actually The project was an infrastructure project where we gave them the support of infrastructure, classroom infrastructure to say. But why we are inclined on that project is because that particular institution is on the verge of becoming, as I mentioned, is the verge of becoming one of largest charitable institutions. But on the other hand, they are using sustainable practices also, not just on the academic front, but also on the environment front. So that is one thing that I really like about it, and we are already supporting that particular project with Lotus Petal Foundation. If I talk about impact, so because Synopsys is into like
Mhm.
technology, electronic design, automation, and things like that, our focus from the very beginning has been on STEM, and we invest a lot on STEM education for rural kids and semi-urban kids. So there is a project with a partner in Karnataka, and where we customize science kits for
Mhm.
the students, where they can do their experiments on their own and learn about the practical applicability of what they actually read in the schools. Because practical exposure to these set of students are very, very difficult, and they are mostly deprived of these things.
Mhm.
But the impact, if you see how the children have grown over the years, you will be amazed. So that's area with we do it with Innovation Science Promotion Foundation and Sanitarism. So that is one area where we actually are impacting a good number of students in a very good manner, like in a very measurable manner, not like we're just doing things in a haphazard way, but it's a very structured approach to it. And also the teachers are being trained, because once you move out from there, it's
Mhm.
very important for the teachers to, because science kits are already there, customized science kits. Now,
Right.
once you move on from there, the teachers are required to, continue that process. So we handle the teacher service. So that's a very comprehensive program that we do in Karnataka.
Right. That's great to know. And I agree that it's not only the students but teachers. So it's a very inclusive approach to all
Absolutely.
the stakeholders. Right.
Absolutely. Right.
Right. Moving on to the concept of DEI, we all understand globally DEI encompasses of people of different ages, races, ethnicities, disabilities, genders, cultures. It also covers people with diverse backgrounds, and DEI is also something that is starting coming up in CSR. So some of these aspects indirectly get covered through CSR. Uh, are there any specific strategies through which you think a corporate can focus on DEI and CSR? And is this something that Synopsys as a company is also focusing on?
Yeah, right. So this is, yeah, actually, this is a very, I think this topic is emerging now. And you rightly mentioned now, organizations are also, including DI in their CSR strategies.
Mhm.
But, more corporates have to come in and include DI in their CSR policies, and a lot of innovative projects have to be designed. But if you look at Synopsys, diversity is hugely celebrated here in almost everything that we do. Today operating in more than 30 countries, we bring out the best flavors from all around the world.
Mhm.
And it's also translated in our CSR programs.
Mhm.
So if you see, we recently, and I think this is the right time that you're asking this question, very recently we have actually kicked off a project with the LGBTQ communities, where we are doing a cafe management program with 20 individuals of the said community, and they will be taught on how a cafe is managed, and also they will be given a seed fund for the initial year. Uh, and right now, the project is in its initiation phase, and I think it's going great. We have already identified, I think, 8 individuals for the first batch. But if you talk about the strategy or the approach, I would say there are things which go beyond monetary, just monetary aspects. There are non-monetary aspects as well. Example, we are doing something in the LGBTQ space, and we are also doing something in the handicapped for the handicapped people.
Mhm.
Uh, while I say that, I also consider that employee volunteering is a very important aspect when you plan these kind of projects, and especially if you get employees who belong to that community to go and interact with the beneficiaries, I think that puts an immense impact on the beneficiaries. So
Mhm.
that is one area, and both the things, monetary and non-monetary. And also, if you look at the trend, I mean, most of these projects are linked to skill building
Mhm.
or training. The corporates should not only look at funding for 1 year or 2 years. I think corporates have got a bigger role in channelizing, or maybe, finding the right avenues for placements of these candidates. There also, I think the role of corporates is much bigger, because everything then relies on, I mean, is dependent on the NGO partner, which sometimes is way beyond their capacity. So I think corporates should look into a couple of more strategies rather than just investing the CSR funds into inclusion projects. So that is something that we are doing with. I think one is with Nirvana organization in Hyderabad, and the other one is with Giftable Foundation in Uttar Pradesh. So yeah, that's something that we have already done.
That's actually great to hear because this is something that is coming up in the sector and not a lot of corporates are taking. So it's great that Synopsys is taking a lead in it. Right.
Yeah, we always wanted to, because see, diversity and inclusion is a material topic also for Synopsys. If you look at our ESG reports, you will see that diversity and inclusion is something that we are really focused on. So, and it also, as you mentioned, that including DI into CSR. So, what we wanted to do something that's already a material topic and how we can contribute to the material topic of Synopsys. So that's why we chose this year. And going forward, we will definitely be doing such projects.
That's great to know. Moving on to the next questions, we also see that Synopsys as a company does invest in a lot of infrastructure for development projects, which cuts across the thematic areas of health, education, and environment. But there's one viewpoint that this is looked as a one-time investment for CSR perspective, like a corporate does it and then moves out. Particularly for such projects, what are the challenges that come during implementation such a CSR activity?
Okay, so I'll take the first question first. I mean, first
Right.
of the two questions that you asked. See, even from where I see, infrastructure creation has a great impact on the local communities. It encompasses relevant stakeholders and puts in a sense of ownership, if at all managed in a right way. Also, it has got a great potential for post CSR, which we know when two corporates can come in together and do something very, very fruitful. I understand that it is categorized as a one-time investment, but the benefits that reap out of it has a greater longevity, if you see.
Right.
In the rural setups, if you look at the rural kids, majority of the dropouts is because of lack of proper infrastructure. If I were to consider toilets, dollars and girls, leaving their schools just because they don't have proper toilets. And not only about girls, it's about something that should attract the kids to come into the school. And it is not about just building. I mean, just creating a civil building, but
Mhm.
it has got more to do. And challenges, of course, there are a lot of challenges. Ownership is one of the biggest challenge, and that's why we need to strategize things in a way that the relevant key stakeholders are at least sensitized at what they need to do when when such an infrastructure is built. You cannot build something and leave it there. But apart from just the ownership factor, I think organizations do not look for a foolproof plan, while they consider infrastructure in the CSR activity, and that is why it's considered a one-time investment. You will see a lot of time corporates only, go for 1 year where they actually build the infrastructure, and they will maximum go for 1 or 2 years more for maintenance. And post that, the infra that has been created falls into a bad shape.
Mhm.
But these are the best avenues for small corporates which have smaller funds to actually go there and do some OPEX projects. And this way it can actually be sustained. So I think that there is a lot of convergence, if you see, of
Right.
stakeholders, and there are a lot of corporates can come in together. So I think it is termed as one-time investment, but yeah, it is one-time investment, but if at all it is being maintained and it has got the benefits for other corporates also. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with your point that even though it looks like one time, the multiplier effect of it, the longevity of it, is something that has like a major impact. Uh,
Yeah.
right. So, also because we're on the topic of infrastructure, do you see that the trend is shifting towards sustainable infrastructure for development over the next 5 to 10 years? Because the entire focus is on sustainability, the COP, and the net zero emissions.
So, see, 5 to 10 years doesn't look realistic to me, if I were to be
Right.
honest. If at all it's putting time to it, I would still say that we are looking at 20 years from now. The percentage of diversion from conventional infra to sustainable infra has been quite less, and that also has come into force after the national focus shifted to net zero.
Correct.
Nevertheless, the infrastructure is not far behind, in being a forefront to making things better.
Mhm.
And in fact, today a lot of construction companies, if you see, choose to go with energy efficient technologies.
Mhm.
And however, while they choose these technologies, there are the delivery of the successful infrastructure or sustainable infrastructure to say also requires a lot of things apart from just meticulous planning. It requires efficient policies of procurement. It requires a well thought regulation, transparent governance, accessible financing. So all these things combined, and still, I would say all these things combined, and we are on the right path, definitely. But I see around 20 years from now, because also we need to consider the rural setup. We are not just talking about the urban setup. So 5 to 10 years, yes, a little unrealistic to me, but definitely we are on the right path. Yes.
No, that's great to know. Again, because we're on the concept of sustainability, recently the Green Credit Program was also launched and is at the consulting stage. And we do see like the corporates are keen to earn credits through this program. So, do you see a sync of CSR projects and the Green Credit Program?
Yes, of course, and definitely there is a thing. If you look at the activities that's listed in the draft, that's under the consulting stage. See, almost everything listed is taken up as an CSR intervention by corporates today. And
Correct.
I see this as a very clever and a wise step, which is not actually mandating company, but is incentivizing them.
Hmm.
So if this rolls out, you could see a lot of corporates shifting their priorities towards the activities that are listed there, and ultimately this is going to benefit the target of net zero. So I'm sure there is going to be a lot more policies on environmental conservation from the government in the coming times. But this will definitely attract a lot of corporates to prioritize environment projects and invest wisely in the projects that are listed in the green credit draft. So yes,
Correct.
that definitely is the same.
Correct. We also see that currently education and health are some of the better thematic areas that get a majority of the funding. So maybe the program will slightly shift funding more towards environment related
Yes, yes,
programs.
absolutely, absolutely. Because a lot of companies have been doing this greening projects, plantation, water conservation,
Mhm.
installation of solar panels and whatnot. But uh, incentive was missing. Now, if you look at the national priorities of net zero and all, this is I think this is a good strategy, to actually having more corporates. We are not penalizing corporates. That if any corporate is not doing these things, they will be penalized. So there are certain things in the CSR rules, if you know, that
Mhm.
if you don't do these things, you will be penalized, or there are repercussions. But here there are no repercussions. I think this is a very, very wise step. This will attract a lot of corporates. So definitely there is a lot of say. Every activity that is listed is already being taken. So
Right.
yeah, it's a good step by the ministry.
Sure. That's great. Again, sustainability reporting, because we just saw that Synopsys also released its ESG report. Overall, globally, UN SDGs and the climate action movement is becoming a force to reckon with. Uh, do you see a convergence of ESG, CSR, the BRSR framework released by SEBI, in order to achieve sustainable development in the country in general?
See, when we talk about convergence of ESG and CSR, I think if you look at there are two scenarios. One is global and one is India. In India, CSR is a part of ESG. It's a
Right.
very small part of the social bracket. But in the global scenario, you will see that they interchangeably use these terms.
Mhm.
Now, there is, in fact, Synopsys. The report was called CSR report. Now it is called ESG report. But the difference between the two areas is here in India, you cannot do anything that benefits your own employees under CSR.
Mhm.
But globally, it's not there. You can develop policies under CSR. You can do something good for your employees and their families. That also comes under CSR. Something that you do for the external population, that also comes under CSR. For internal, that also comes under CSR. Convergence is there. But I think it's more got to do with the sustainable development goals. If you look at ESG reports, I think every indicator
Mhm.
is actually linked to SDGs.
Right.
And why? In India, CSR is number one, it's qualitative, it's self-regulated.
Mhm.
But ESG is not qualitative, it's quantitative. So when you include CSR into ESG, definitely we are in the path to sustainable development, because everything is linked to SDGs. You are ultimately contributing, and when you also include CSR, you are quantifying things that you are doing under CSR.
Right.
So definitely there is a convergence.
Right.
Surely.
Right. Coming back to Synopsys again. So, how do you see Synopsys building impact at scale through CSR in the next 5 years?
Okay, so see, Synopsys, very honestly, has been a very responsible stakeholder in the community and shall continue to do what it takes for national priorities. And as an organization, we have really been observant of feedback and concerns that gets highlighted by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So I'll just give you a little example. Very recently, I think 30th of June, an article was released by uh, I think some media house, but it was from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs that highlighted that there's a big regional disparity when it comes to allocation of CSR funds. Northeast, surprisingly, all combined, seven states accounted for only 0.91 percentage of total CSR funds. And this I'm talking about financial year 21. Immediately, when the notification was released, Synopsys decided to divert all its remaining funds because it was released in June. We were halfway there. So we did not have entire funds, but whatever was there in our CSR, we decided to divert it towards the Northeast, and that in an aspirational district. And going forward, our strategy, because we talk about 5 years from now, continuing to support what we are doing, but again, we will be definitely earmarking certain percentage of our CSR for the Northeast. And this, I think, this is an appeal to the audience who might be watching this, any corporates who might be watching this. For CSR has got a huge role in transformation. And if every year you at least earmark certain is small percentage towards the Northeast, I can see a big difference in that region. So that is one thing that we are going to do in the next 4 to 5 years. Also, then circling back to our conversation regarding environment projects, before the life program was introduced, this green credit. Before that, only Synopsys decided to do greening projects in all the regions of its operations, and not just its operations. We will be continuing to go to ultra poor regions. And when we say our offices are located, Hyderabad, for us, Hyderabad means Telangana.
Right.
For us, Bangalore means Karnataka. For us, Mumbai means Maharashtra. Delhi NCR means like Delhi NCR. Gurgaon, it goes till Ghaziabad, Noida, everything. So yeah, in the next 4 to 5 years, definitely we will be scaling up, but obviously we'll be expanding our horizon as well. So yeah, that's the plan.
It's great to know that such articles did help strategize and diverting the funds to Northeast. So that's a great initiative. Congratulations on that. One of the last questions, because we're talking development and CSR also is looked at a nation building role. So soon India would complete 75 years of independence. So just asking that how do you see India faring on the front and what is your vision for India at 2047?
2047, I think it's a very long period of time that we're looking at. And we were just talking about sustainable infrastructure. So I think India is on the, from where I see, India is on the right path. But catering to the population is huge. And ensuring development in the urban setups is actually, I mean, not actually, but I would say as compared to the rural setups, the development in the urban scenario, the urban setup is actually easier. But in the rural setups, it's not just the development that you need to do, but you need to actually, build the capacity, or you need to invest in behavioral changes.
Hmm.
That is one area for the rural. I mean, when we progress towards 2047, I think development is one side, but until unless you change the behavioral aspects of the people in the rural setup, I think the development is going to be a bit difficult for that region. And we need to do that because, I mean, 75 years, but there are layers of, n number of layers when you look at going to the communities, talking to them, who are you talking to, what are you talking to,
Hmm.
so it needs a lot of strategy around it, and we're talking about very longer period of 2047. So yes, I think behavioral change is something that needs to be focused on as a short-term thing. So
Right. Totally agree with you because we do see a lot of awareness sessions, but again,
yes,
the impact is more seen when you have actually behavior adoption of these practices.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely, yes.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Bijay, for having a wonderful conversation with us and a lot of insights from our conversation. Thanking you again.
Thank you so much, Mansi. Thank you.
Right.